Good morning everybody and welcome to this week's edition of the RDA Central West Business Leaders Breakfast, and I'm really excited that you're able to join us this morning because today in the hot seat we have CEO of the Western Local Health District, Mr. Scott McLachlan. Scott, welcome to breakfast.
G'day everybody. G'day Sam.
Great to have you here this morning. Thanks for coming in. Now Scott, you are the CEO of the Western Local Health District. You've been in that role for some 8 years, I believe. But for our viewers that might not know, I guess, your professional background, can you tell us a little bit about your journey into health and your journey to the Central West?
Sure, Sam. Morning everybody. So Sam, first and foremost, a country boy. I grew up in Inverell on a little property just outside of town. I have this beautiful family environment. A family I'm very big in the Salvation Army, and big caring environment, and that led me to university to do an exercise physiology degree, which was sort of the thing you do when you don't know what you want to do as a kid.
I thought it was a law degree.
It sounded good, and running around with sporty people was great. But halfway through the degree, I found myself helping some kids with some crippling conditions, spina bifida, and met this young kid, Nicholas, who was 6 at the time, could barely walk. He couldn't get to school. And I was able to help him walk and mobilise. And Nicholas is now 25 years on, 31, and he's living a great life. And I've felt that connection that you can make a real impact. And so out of something that sounded good going to uni, I found myself in health, and I don't really know that I've made too many decisions in my career, because health is this great environment that helps develop good leaders. I had a chief executive in Tamworth at the time tapped me on the shoulders very early on in health, and pretty much sent me off to do this 2-year program, which was a leadership development program. First of all, a 12-month stint down in Wagga, where I had a placement with nearly every clinical service and corporate service, and then a private hospital on the Central Coast. And from there I've found a lot of opportunity working in health and making a real difference in people's lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess we're going to touch on it a bit later. I guess the health, it's a diverse area of work, but it's also a diverse region that you cover. It's some 250,000 square kilometres, I believe. What are some of the challenges that covering a region of that size presents?
Yeah, it's a big backyard with 280,000 population. We've got 38 hospitals and health services across that region. We now employ over 7,000 staff, and so it's a fairly large organisation, but spread across that number of health services is nearly the ultimate challenge. But it's just a great opportunity to make an impact in people's lives, in country people that are really connected and knitted together in a community. So our hospitals, we see, are just one of the mainstays and the bastions of country towns. We're the largest employer in most country towns. And we spend over $1 billion in the region now, and so that comes with a lot of responsibility, and particularly at the moment in the times we're in, which is scaring a lot of people with employment and business opportunities. So the challenges that provides, we've got 7,000 staff, as I said, a lot of clinicians, corporate support staff, and staff that look after people right across the whole of the region. The new technologies are giving us a lot of opportunity to provide services closer to home to people, and that's something I'd love to talk further about. But when we can't provide services close to home for a lot of our population, we end up transporting them away from home, and that's the case for some people where we need to provide specialist support. Now, every year we spend about $26 million transporting people between health services in this region.
Just within the region? Just
within the region. Our staff do over 13 million kilometres a year. Every day of the week, that's the equivalent of 1.5 times around the outside of the world that our staff go to provide services to patients. And so that's a big commitment for us. And in a region like this, providing a service closer to home for people means they don't have to travel away. They don't become more disadvantaged in the hardship of having to get to health services.
Yeah, look, it's probably a nice segue into my next question. COVID-19, it's been an unprecedented scenario that we find ourselves in, but one of the aspects that I think it's probably facilitated has been the uptake in technology. People's I guess, understanding, appreciation and willingness to use technology in their business. I think I've done more Zoom calls in the last couple of months than I had done ever before that. From a health admin perspective, do you think that could be one of the silver linings from this scenario that we're working our way through, is just people's willingness to use technology even from a health delivery perspective?
Oh, it's been a dream. The whole COVID experience, while it's been terrifying for most people, it's provided a world of opportunity in health. We've seen more reform in the last 4 or 5 months in the way that we provide services than we've probably seen in 10 years. And the new technologies are just opening doors left, right and centre.
I think Winston Churchill said something like, always maximise a good crisis, or don't miss a good crisis, because as you said, it kind of people's willingness to adapt and make change.
Well, that's certainly been the case for us. We've, for the last 5 or 7 years, been regarded as one of Australia's leaders in telehealth, so being able to video conference and communicate for patients and clinicians through technology. And we've seen this rapid acceleration in the last 4 months in making sure we can protect people, leave them in their home to access a specialist cardiologist or respiratory physician. And we've got over 800 high-definition cameras in the organisation, and we've just maximised every one of those to get clinicians to the bedside of patients in emergency departments, in beds in Brewarrina. Some of our best specialists have been able to access care for those patients. And so while COVID is still with us, it is unfortunately going to be with us for some time now. That this is a new reality. I think we're starting to figure out how we deal with. It's certainly changed the landscape of health.
What's been the biggest administrative challenge, I guess, for health as a result of COVID? And I know there's been a lot of pressure on health staff as a result of COVID. What's impressed you most about the health staff, because they've been doing a mountain of work?
Sam, our staff are just incredible. All of our staff come to work in health to help people. And in a crisis like this has brought out the best in our staff, the commitment they show, and the fearless commitment to come and work in an environment that does place themselves and their families at risk. From our frontline admin staff in the emergency department receptions to our back office staff, our doctors, nurses, allied health clinicians on the wards. They've been just incredible, and one of our biggest challenges every day is keeping the doors open on all of our 38 hospitals and health services. So we came into this with some risk around not being able to fill rosters and keep our services staffed. That's something we continue to battle with. But through all of this, the commitment from our staff is incredible.
Yeah, I can imagine it's been an immensely challenging time for all health staff, because they're under probably a greater level of stress at the moment because of all of the changing, I guess, landscape as a result of COVID. From a leadership perspective, what have you learnt about your own leadership style during this really challenging period?
Wow.
I didn't say it was going to be an easy chat.
Oh, bring it on, bring it on. I've really stepped up a gear, and this has been the time to be visible and supportive for staff, help to encourage innovation, help people break down barriers, and think about different ways of doing things. And so that's a challenge I'd put out to anyone. As you say, out of a crisis comes opportunity, and in this you get to change the way that both we function as individuals, but also behave and lead people and inspire people. And I'd hope the ways that we found to communicate more, share information, and break down barriers has actually made health service provision easier, and the community have a sense that hospitals are there to look after them.
Yeah, hopefully that's one of the longer term legacies, I guess, from this scenario, is that kind of that positive change that comes through it. We touched on it earlier. Health is a major employer in the Central West and in your region. It's a major economic driver. I think there's some 11,000 people employed in the Central West in health, aged care and associated sectors, and it's about 1.5 billion in economic output. But I guess, what are some of the challenges of managing such a diverse group of staff? And secondly, what are some of the career paths that are existing in health that people might not be aware of?
Yeah, great. So with 7,000 staff across our region, a lot of volunteers and doctors that come into our service, we find ourselves as the biggest employer in most towns, and with that comes a lot of responsibility. And in turbulent times like this, we're very committed to country towns to making sure that we can all get through this together, because it will be a long period of time. I think as an employer, we've got a lot of opportunities for country kids to find opportunity in health. If you think about some of the new emerging roles connected to technology, some of our biomedical technicians that keep all of the thousands of bits of technology binging at the bedside, or keeping our 7,000 computers going, to some of our research and clinical trials assistants, to roles like exercise physiology, the new emerging roles that are helping to keep people healthy, enable people to live happy lives. A lot of the allied health roles, I actually think, are one of the real opportunities for the future, and great opportunity for kids coming through school to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess it kind of leads into the next question, and it's about, I guess, health and the educational journey. Now, there's going to be the new CSU Western Sydney Uni Medical School kicking off in Orange, where we are this morning, I believe in January next year. Some 37 places, end-to-end medical school. What do you think are some of the opportunities for our region as a result of having more medical training right here in the Central West?
Oh, it's a huge boost. One of the biggest issues I've seen in my 25 years in health is the declining number of rural doctors. And it's no more evident than the Central West and the whole of Western New South Wales, and the gaps in having a GP in country towns for us is one of the biggest issues in helping people to live healthy, happy lives and get over their illnesses, get diagnosed early, being able to access the GP early for that early specialist advice and guidance is so crucial. So being able to train in our backyard and give country kids the opportunity or the hope that they don't need to end up in a big city to do a lot of the early years medical training is just such a huge opportunity. If you look around Australia, the development of rural medical schools, where they've popped up, the towns around them are now benefiting from that, and so I think it's only years away before we'll see some of that start to flow through. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think, as you said, if you train in a region, you're probably more likely to stay in the region. Yeah. I think the studies show that. And as you said, if these students are getting that experience in the region, it just shows them that there's career pathways right here. You don't have to go over the hill into Sydney to develop your career. And it's probably something that we're doing here at RDA Central West. We've got the 10 for 10 Youth Leadership Program this year that we've kicked off, and I think it kind of aligns with that. It's about trying to showcase to these students in our region that there's this diverse range of opportunities, different sectors that you can succeed in health, you can succeed in ag, you can succeed in business, and you can do it all from right here.
Absolutely. And with our employment and the broader health sector, there's over 15,000 jobs in our region for people wanting a career in health, and so it's a perfect avenue for kids at school who are thinking about the basics of the curriculum and programs they need to do. Health is a great avenue.
Yeah, absolutely. It sure is. Now we're going to change pace a little bit, Scott. This is Fast Five. It's where we hit the guests with a couple of good quick questions to learn a little bit more about themselves. Now, the last good book or movie that you read or saw?
One of my favourites I watched on the weekend was a movie Collateral that's got Tom Cruise in it.
Okay.
I'm a bit of an old style movie fan and love a bit of action.
Okay, as do I. Would have been a big Top Gun fan? Or?
Oh, hell yeah, can't wait for a new movie. Yeah.
Best bit of advice that you gained from a previous mentor?
Well, the chief executive that took me under his wing and gave me a slap on the back and head off in the right direction was, his best bit of advice was get out of your comfort zone. It's okay to be scared, but get out of your comfort zone. And I wanted to just sit in my comfy job in Tamworth, but he sent me off with an opportunity that I'll look back on every day of the week as the best thing anyone's ever done for me.
Yeah, I actually think that's really good advice, because you've got to keep challenging yourself. And I think if you don't keep challenging yourself, it's natural just to get a little bit complacent and a bit comfy, as you said.
Yeah.
And for me, I think it's one of those things when you start taking on new roles with higher levels of stress, you kind of, like I say, your stress threshold keeps increasing because you just get used to it and you just kind of adapt and you get used to it and you show that you can do it, and it's probably kind of aligns with that as well, I think.
Yeah, that little knot in your stomach is okay.
Yeah, it probably drives you to do bigger and better things.
Yeah.
Favourite sporting code or team?
I'm a big rugby nut, so they're going through their wobbles at the moment. I think it'll all recover and grow again. So for me, Waratahs.
Okay.
I'm a Blues fan, but they need to pick up their game, I think.
Yeah, well, look, I think it's been a weird year for sport, just with everything with COVID. So we'll hopefully, it's nice to see it at least back, even with empty stadiums, because I'm a big sport fan.
Yeah.
Now, if you had to delete all but 3 apps on your phone, which 3 would you keep?
Can I delete more than 3?
No, you've only got to keep 3. You can delete all of them.
Oh wow!
3.
Oh, okay.
So for me, I would say ABC. I said this the other week. ABC app, just so I can keep across what's happening in news.
Yep.
Fox Sports, so I can keep across what's happening in Fox Sports. And probably WhatsApp, just so you know the messaging, connecting with family and friends.
I mean the trappings of the social media at the moment for me is, I've found myself more addicted to it out of COVID, and wanting to find what's the latest.
Yep.
And so across Snapchat, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all of those platforms, that'd be the first swipe for me, because it's so addictive. And I can see my 16, 15-year-old daughter who's into new app every couple of weeks. That the addiction is so incredible. So for me, through the times of people having to isolate, is a real concern for their mental health, for their lack of real connection with people. So that'd be the challenge for me, those 3 apps, social media.
Yeah, it's actually, we caught up with Stephanie Robinson a few weeks ago, CEO of Lifeline Central West, and she was saying this has thrown up a lot of unexpected challenges for a lot of different members of the community. And as you said, I think it's just one of those challenges of COVID is it's making sure we're still touching base with family and friends and vulnerable people. It could be your neighbour, it could be someone that you kind of, not directly a family or just an associate or an acquaintance, just touching base with and making sure they're going all right. I think it's important. That's good advice.
Crucial.
Hidden gem of the Central West, but I know your health district takes in, it's far broader than the Central West, but a little hidden gem if you're someone, a family or friend was visiting and you'd love to take them to, it could be a venue, it could be a place, it could be a restaurant.
One of the most peaceful places I love to centre myself and reconnect is this amazing lookout just north of the parks in Goobang National Park. Okay. It's this lookout that sits on the top of an escarpment, straight out west over this perfectly flat horizon where you can see the shape of the earth, and I swear you can see Perth from up there. And it's a pretty special and significant place for the Aboriginal community around our region, and so just that connection and ability to feel at peace.
So Goobang National Park,
yes.
We'll put the link up for that one after this morning's chat, and if you've got, might be a bit of a wet weekend, but if you're looking for a nice activity and a drive, it might be one to check out, go for a nice walk out there. Now, sure. we've touched on it a bit earlier. We've said the Central West, especially around Orange, it's a bit of a major health hub. There's a lot happening out there at the health precinct. But I guess, is there any update you can provide, I guess, of how things are progressing out there? I know when you drive out past there, you can see the new private hospitals up and open. But is there any other kind of update you can provide to our viewers this morning?
So Sam, the Orange Health Precinct developments I think are going to be really exciting. The potential growth of research and development, the education sector, the new Bloomfield Medical Centre is just an amazing building and an opportunity for Orange and the whole of the Central West. I know Council's now passed that through Council. It's been on display, had a lot of comment and a lot of excitement about the plans, and for me that's something that we've been very involved with Council in helping to lead the bigger vision and create this industry movement that can bring a whole heap of new industries to Orange.
I think that's the exciting aspect of it. It's those flow-on industries that I'm confident will come to the Central West, and it's not just Orange, it'll be the broader region that'll benefit because it'll be new employment pathways, new career pathways, and I think that's a win-win.
Absolutely, mate. For us, as you know, RDA was involved in a lot of our visioning around growing a health precinct for every town across the whole of the region in the next 10 years, and Orange really was the start of that. We've now seen Dubbo step into a very similar design and forward thinking. Bathurst similarly, Mudgee's underway at the moment, and Cowra's about to be underway with the plans for the new hospital. And so Orange really has shaped how we can help create a much bigger vision for an industry growth and development.
And I think it's something that the health district has mentioned through those planning processes is as part of the long-term kind of 10-year vision. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it was almost that if you need medical services, the ambition is that you can get it within the region. So you might have to travel, from Orange, you might have to go to Dubbo, but ultimately the ambition was that you could access those services within the region instead of having to go down to Sydney. That's it.
That's the dream. And in the last 7 years, we've halved the number of people that have had to leave the region to go to Sydney for specialist services. Through the growth of the cancer services in Orange, the cardiac services, a lot of our intensive care capability to look after really crook people.
And I think they did the work at the Western New South Wales Cancer Centre in Dubbo. That's progressing pretty well. I think they did the laying of the slab a few weeks ago.
Yeah, we sure do. Yeah, absolutely. So that's got a linear accelerator for us to be able to treat radiotherapy type cancers, and so it'll really accelerate for the northern and western part of our region what's become a really significant issue in people not being able to access easily early diagnosis and treatment. So sadly, a lot of people do choose not to have treatment when they have cancer that's more advanced, and we certainly see that north of Dubbo, so that the cancer services networked across our region is just so crucial in that.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it's going to be a fantastic resource for years to come, and that ambition that the health district is pursuing about having all those services available in the region is true, because if you're going from Burke, it's probably 3.5-4 hours to Dubbo to access services. So if you haven't gone down to Sydney too often, you're in a highly difficult situation, you're away from family and friends, it's just another barrier to accessing services.
And for people, the fear that comes with that from both the fear of cancer or another illness, and being so far away from home, and particularly for Aboriginal people being off country, the sense of uncertainty and fear that creates is one of the other biggest barriers. And so for us, helping to ease fear, not just bringing services closer, but them trusting those services, knowing that there's someone that's a friendly face that's local, and that there's high quality services as the other part of it that I think does scare a lot of people off accessing services if they're scared.
Yeah, it's a good point. I think that's another reason why I think the access to those video calls and telehealth services just help to bring down some of those barriers, and you can do it from your local community and still have access to fantastic services without having to travel, which I think is fantastic. And I guess it's probably a nice segue into we've talked about the adaptation of technology as a result of COVID, but how do you think technology is going to continue to change service delivery from a health admin perspective going into the future?
Oh wow, well, that's a world of opportunity. We're just about to step into a heap of 3D virtual reality orientation type things, and part of that is what we were just talking about, easing the fear for patients. Our telehealth technology, being able to monitor people's conditions in their own homes, all of the wearables technology these days is accelerating our health professionals being able to interact differently and easier with patients. People being able to take control of their own health when they know more. They'll also take action and think about what they're doing every day that contributes to their heart rate being elevated, their blood pressure being elevated, putting on more weight, and all of those type of things. But stretching into some of the bigger opportunities, in data analytics, health is very data rich. We've now got an electronic medical record for every patient that comes into nearly every service across the region, and that's incredibly rich to start to forecast what are the needs for clinical treatment in the region, the technologies we need, the new drugs that are evolving, and actually both do more research in the region and help people have information at their fingertips on what their health is and what they can do to keep themselves healthier. And in new diagnostic technologies, in the Dubbo redevelopment, we've just put in the fastest and best CT and MRI in the country. We're just about to have a PET CT, which is a high-end diagnostic CT for cancers, and that's the first in our region and one of very few in rural Australia. And so from a diagnostic perspective, that's where we're trying to stretch. We're still committed to setting up a mobile CT service for our very remote service communities to try and take a diagnostic service to them. And then when you look at the monitoring of patients in our beds, we've now become the leader in Australia in a partnership with Philips that's monitoring patients in all of our small rural hospitals from our central specialist hub. And so that's a hub that we've got an Orange and a Dubbo location of, with specialist nurses and doctors that are overseeing the care of patients in Brewarrina and Blaney and Oberon. And so that's a program of work that's rolling out in the next 12 months in a partnership with Philips that's bringing some of the cutting edge technology to our region. Now, the difference that makes is, there's about a third of our patients in Dubbo, Orange and Bathurst that may not need to be there because of some of this extra capability to monitor their condition in their own hospital closer to home. And so that's not just a good thing for care, but the right thing for patients and their families.
And also leads to better allocation of resources to where it's needed as well, which I think is a good result.
Yeah.
And I guess we kind of glossed over it earlier. We talked about the region, we talked about the size of the health district. How does the Western Health District compare with some of those leading health indicators compared to other regions of Australia? And because I know there's, I know
that's
some
a bittersweet story.
I know it is. I know it is, and I think that's probably why the role that you play in making sure we can have those resources there for people to access is so vital, because there are some challenges there.
But there absolutely, Sam. So a general rule of thumb: for every 100 kilometres away from a major centre that a person lives, they'll live 1 year of life less. That's a pretty scary story of the impact of remoteness, of the difficulty that people face living in rural and remote regions. For us, that's very evident in having much higher rates of hospitalisation. It's led to by much higher rates of chronic conditions, cancers, and a whole range of other things that people in rural regions suffer with more than their city counterparts. Now, we are making some inroads in those. So in the last 7 years, we've seen a 17% reduction in mortality from cancer for men in our region, and an 11% reduction for women. So that there's some of those things that are starting to shift. It's closing the gap, as we'd say, somewhat. For chronic conditions, we've got one of the highest rates of diabetes in the country. Now that to be honest, is for type 2 diabetes is a lifestyle disease. It's led to by people putting on weight out of not being physically active enough and not eating the right things, smoking too much, and drinking. And those four things are the things that are killing people in our region. And so it's the basics of life that a lot of people find difficult. But when you break it down to what we'd call the social determinants of health, the lifestyle things of people having good opportunity to have education, employment, good safe housing, and a family and supportive environment around them. They're the things that give people hope and opportunity in life. And in our region, as you know only too well, some of the employment challenges are real for people. And that they do lead in some of our smaller country towns to higher rates of mortality, morbidity. On the flip side, there are some positive things. So we've also got the highest rate of immunisation for Aboriginal kids in the country, kids under 5, and one of the highest rates for non-Aboriginal kids. In the last 8 years, we've seen a reduction in the number of kids with developmental difficulties. And we've now got a lower rate than the state average. So you'd say this is a great place for kids to grow up and find opportunity. That this is a measure of kids at preschool entry being able to interact in the room, learn, and do a whole range of things as kids should be able to do. And so there are some indicators that we're creating a good environment, a happy place for our region.
And that just says there's a lot of challenges, but there's also some silver linings and some positive kind of trajectories in some of those key leading indicators. And I guess, as we've touched on this morning, just having access to those services closer to home, the better utilisation of technology, you hope will continue to improve those health indicators in our region, because people and patients will be able to access those services, as I said, easier, more effectively, and I think that's a good result. Now, one of the last questions I'm going to ask you this morning, Scott, is we've got a real passion for STEM here at RDA Central West. We understand that there's a variety of great STEM-related career pathways across a variety of industries right here in the Central West. What advice would you give to students who are studying STEM, and what kind of career pathways are available through health that are STEM related?
So the fundamentals and skills and knowledge needed in health are absolutely the STEM skills. All clinicians, whether you're a nurse, doctor, allied health, or those broader skills of biomedical technicians and others, are founded on good evidence of what works, and being able to do the right thing for patients in a consistent, regular, high quality way. And so that those STEM skills are absolutely foundational for a lot of health careers. And so for any students in the region wanting a career in health at school, thinking about your year 10, 11, 12 choices, the STEM skills are so foundational for a career in health, and honestly that the world's your oyster, that the opportunities in health can lead you anywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, thanks, Scott, for your time this morning. And as you said, you started up at Infarel and you've had a fantastic career in health, and it's opened a lot of doors, and it just shows you the variety of opportunities that exist. If there are interested viewers this morning that want to engage with you, your staff and the local health district, what's the easiest way for them to get in touch?
Great. So there's three main different ways. If you're interested in a career in health, our recruitment team, visit our website, and there's avenues to talk to our recruitment team, and we can help with opportunities. If you're interested in playing a role in health, we've got 38 health councils across the region, having 420 community members that come and give us advice, help us grow and evolve and develop our services and connect with the community in a real way. And if you're at all interested in providing input and advice to myself, we've got a board of directors that there'll be opportunities in the next 6 months coming up with some of the change on our board to come and govern and guide the local health district. So bring it on. I'd welcome any input.
Oh, fantastic. Well, look, we'll put those links up after this morning's chat. If you're interested in recruitment, if you're interested in being in some of those community advice pathways, I guess, for the health district, that'll be fantastic. But look, Scott, thank you for your time. Really appreciate it. And for everybody else, make sure you tune in same time next week for another RDA Central West Business Breakfast. Have a great day and a fantastic weekend.